ballroom shimmered with gold. Cameras flashed. Billionaires laughed over champagne. At the center of it all stood Jared Caldwell, preparing to toast the 10th anniversary of Grant Technologies and the unveiling of his new AI-powered medical project. Just as he raised his glass, a voice shouted from the corner, "Don't drink that." Every head turned. A young black girl in a simple service uniform, Zuri Lawson, stood trembling, eyes locked on the glass. "That drink's not safe, sir." Laughter erupted. "Who let the help in here?" someone sneered. Jared's smile faded. "Little girl, do you have any idea who you're talking to?" Zuri met his glare and whispered, "Yes, sir. The man they're trying to kill." The glass slipped from his hand, and moments later, where it shattered, the carpet began to smoke. Welcome to Life in Stories, where every tale reveals the power of heart, courage, and truth. If you believe real strength comes from compassion, not status, then you're in the right place. Don't forget to subscribe, turn on notifications, and join our growing community of story lovers. Every story here has a soul, and maybe, just maybe, one will speak to yours. The Grand Meridian Hotel had never seen such chaos. What began as an elegant celebration of Grant Technologies' 10th anniversary had transformed into a scene from a thriller. The spilled champagne hissed against the Persian carpet, releasing wisps of acrid smoke that sent nearby guests stumbling backward in horror. Zuri Lawson wasn't supposed to be there. At 12 years old, she should have been home doing homework, not standing in a ballroom full of the world's wealthiest individuals, watching her mother serve canapes to people who wouldn't remember her face 5 minutes later. But Danielle Lawson's babysitter had canceled at the last minute, and bringing Zuri along seemed harmless enough. After all, the girl knew how to stay invisible, a skill she'd perfected over years of accompanying her mother to these glittering events. Zuri had learned to read rooms the way other children read books. She noticed the subtle hierarchies, the fake smiles, the way powerful men's eyes would glaze over when her mother approached with a tray. But tonight, she'd noticed something else entirely. It started with Dr. Malcolm Gray. The distinguished biochemist had arrived early, his silver beard perfectly groomed, his handshake firm as he greeted fellow board members. But Zuri saw the tremor in his left hand, the way he kept checking his phone, the nervous glances he shot toward the service entrance. When he'd slipped into the kitchen area, a place no guest should venture, Zuri had followed at a distance. She'd watched him intercept a waiter carrying a tray of champagne flutes, watched him produce a small vial from his jacket pocket, watched him carefully switch one specific glass, the one with the tiny gold ribbon tied to its stem, marking it for the guest of honor. Jared Caldwell commanded attention wherever he went. At 38, he'd built Grant Technologies from a garage startup into a global empire. His innovations in medical AI had saved countless lives. His philanthropic efforts had funded schools and hospitals across 3 continents. The media painted him as a visionary, a self-made success story who'd never forgotten his humble beginnings. But success had made him enemies. Rivals who resented his rapid rise. Board members who chafed under his autocratic leadership. And perhaps most dangerously, those closest to him who saw opportunity in his downfall. Security. Jared's voice cut through the pandemonium. Lock down the building. No one leaves. Turner, his head of security, was already in motion. A former Navy SEAL with 20 years of experience protecting high-value targets, he'd served Jared for the past 5 years with unwavering loyalty. But even he looked shaken as he stared at the smoking carpet. "Sir, we need to get you to the safe room," Turner insisted. "Not yet." Jared's eyes found Zuri again. The girl stood perfectly still amidst the chaos, her chin raised despite the tears tracking down her cheeks. "Bring her to me." And her mother. Danielle Lawson nearly collapsed when security approached. She'd worked for elite catering services for 3 years, building a reputation for professionalism and discretion. This job at the Grant Technologies gala was supposed to be her big break, a chance to impress the supervisors and maybe earn a promotion. Instead, she watched her daughter being escorted toward the most powerful man in the room. "Mr. Caldwell, I'm so sorry," Danielle stammered. "She wasn't supposed to. I don't know what she was thinking." "Your daughter just saved my life," Jared interrupted. His voice was steady, but those who knew him well could hear the underlying tension. "I'd like to know how." All eyes turned to Zuri. The ballroom had fallen silent, except for the faint hiss of emergency ventilation systems kicking in to clear the toxic fumes. She could feel the weight of their stares, curious, suspicious, dismissive. These people who'd laughed at her warning moments ago now waited for her explanation. "I saw him," Zuri said, pointing directly at Dr. Gray. "He switched the glasses in the kitchen. Put something from a little bottle into yours." Gray's reaction was immediate and telling. Instead of outrage or denial, he smiled. It was a cold expression that never reached his eyes. "Mr. Caldwell, surely you're not going to believe the fantasies of a child. She's obviously seeking attention, perhaps angling for a reward." "Then you won't mind if we test the other glasses on that tray," Jared suggested. "Of course not. Test away. Though I doubt you'll find anything. Children have such vivid imaginations." But when Turner's team located the abandoned tray in the kitchen, they found something curious. Every glass was accounted for except one, the one with the gold ribbon, the one meant for Jared. "Someone disposed of the evidence," Turner reported quietly. "But our preliminary field test on the spilled liquid is showing traces of tetrodotoxin, pufferfish poison. A few sips would have caused paralysis within minutes, death within an hour." The revelation sent another wave of shock through the crowd. This wasn't just an attempt on Jared's life. It was a carefully planned assassination using one of the deadliest natural toxins known to man. "Clear the civilians," Jared ordered. "Keep only essential personnel and potential witnesses." As security began ushering guests toward the exits, Evelyn Shaw pushed through the crowd. Jared's fiancée moved with the practiced grace of someone born to wealth, her designer gown flowing like water, her perfectly styled blonde hair catching the light. She'd been across the room when Zuri shouted her warning, engaged in conversation with the senator's wife. Now she rushed to Jared's side, her face a mask of concern. "Darling, are you all right?" She reached for his hand, but he pulled away slightly. Something in her eyes, was it disappointment? Flickered and vanished. "I'm fine, Evelyn. Thanks to her." He nodded toward Zuri. Evelyn's gaze shifted to the girl, and for just a moment, Zuri saw something that made her stomach clench. It was the same look she'd seen in Dr. Gray's eyes earlier. Calculation mixed with barely concealed fury. "How fortunate," Evelyn murmured. "Though I can't imagine how a child would recognize poison in a glass. Unless perhaps she was involved somehow. Are you suggesting this 12-year-old girl tried to assassinate me?" Jared's voice carried a warning edge. "Of course not. I'm simply saying we should explore all possibilities. After all, her mother works for the catering company. They had access to the drinks." Danielle gasped. "We would never. I've worked honestly my whole life." "No one's accusing you of anything," Jared said firmly. But Zuri noticed how his security team subtly shifted position, keeping both her and her mother within easy reach. The next hour passed in a blur of questions and procedures. Police arrived but were kept at bay by Jared's legal team, who insisted on conducting an internal investigation first. The remaining guests, board members, major investors, and a handful of journalists who'd been covering the gala, were sequestered in a separate ballroom for questioning. Zuri found herself in a strange position. Part witness, part suspect, part hero. She wasn't sure which role the adults had assigned her. They'd given her a chair in the corner where she could observe everything while Turner's team swept the building for additional threats. She watched Jared work, fascinated despite her fear. He commanded the room with quiet authority, issuing orders, demanding answers, piecing together the evening's events with the same intensity he probably brought to board meetings. But she also saw the moments when his mask slipped, the way his hands trembled slightly when he thought no one was looking, the deep breaths he took to steady himself. "You're very observant," a voice said beside her. Zuri looked up to find Turner standing nearby, his expression unreadable. "My mama says I notice too much sometimes. In my line of work, there's no such thing as noticing too much." He paused, studying her. "You knew exactly which glass was Mr. Caldwell's." "How?" "The gold ribbon," Zuri explained. "I helped tie those on earlier. Mama showed me how. One for the guest of honor, silver for the board members, plain for everyone else." "And you saw Dr. Gray switch specifically that glass?" She nodded. "He was careful. Waited until the waiter turned away. But I was behind the dessert station. He didn't see me." Turner's jaw tightened. You should have found security immediately. I tried. The words burst out of her. But the man at the door said children weren't allowed in the main ballroom. Said I'd get my mama fired if I caused trouble. So I waited until Mr. Caldwell was about to drink, and then, she shrugged helplessly. You caused a scene to save his life. Turner's expression softened slightly. That took courage. Before Zuri could respond, shouting erupted from across the room. Dr. Gray was on his feet, red-faced and gesticulating wildly. This is absurd, he declared. I've served on this board for 7 years. I've helped build this company. And you're going to take the word of a child who shouldn't even be here, over mine. The evidence will speak for itself, Jared replied calmly. If you're innocent, you have nothing to fear. Evidence? What evidence? A spilled drink and a little girl's testimony. Gray laughed bitterly. You've become paranoid, Jared. Just like your father. The temperature in the room seemed to drop. Everyone knew about Marcus Caldwell, Jared's father, who'd built a modest tech company only to lose everything when his business partner betrayed him. The stress had triggered a heart attack that killed him when Jared was just 22. It was the tragedy that had driven Jared to build his own empire, to never depend on anyone completely. Don't, Jared warned, his voice deadly quiet. But Gray pressed on, perhaps sensing his only chance was to destabilize his accuser. He trusted the wrong people too. Saw conspiracies everywhere near the end. Is that what's happening here? Are you so afraid of betrayal that you're seeing it where it doesn't exist? Enough. Evelyn stepped forward, placing a protective hand on Jared's arm. Malcolm, you're not helping yourself with these accusations. Zuri watched the interplay between them, her observant eyes catching what others missed. The way Evelyn's fingers tapped against Jared's sleeve. Was it Morse code? The quick glance she shot Gray. Warning or reassurance. The slight nod he gave in return. Sir, she said suddenly, not sure where the courage came from. May I say something? The room turned to her again. Jared nodded slowly. My daddy used to tell me that when people are lying, they attack instead of defend. They make you feel crazy for questioning them. She looked directly at Gray. That's what you're doing now. Gray's face contorted with rage. You little, he lunged forward, whether to grab her or strike her, no one could say. Turner intercepted him instantly, pinning him against the wall with practiced efficiency. But in the struggle, something fell from Gray's jacket. A second vial, identical to the one Zuri had described. The room erupted. Security swarmed Gray, who was now screaming about frame-ups and conspiracies. Evelyn backed away, her perfect composure finally cracking. And Jared stood frozen, staring at the vial rolling across the marble floor. Test it, he said hoarsely. Test it now. The field kit confirmed what everyone already knew, tetrodotoxin, concentrated and lethal. Enough to kill several people. I want answers, Jared demanded. Who else is involved? Who paid you? Gray had gone silent, his face pale but defiant. Lawyer, was all he said. But Zuri was still watching Evelyn. The woman had retreated to the windows, her phone in her hand despite the communication lockdown. She was typing frantically, trying to be discreet, but Zuri could see the screen's reflection in the glass. Mr. Turner, Zuri whispered, tugging on his sleeve. She's sending messages. Turner followed her gaze and moved swiftly. Ms. Shaw, I'll need that phone. This is ridiculous, Evelyn protested. I'm trying to contact our legal team. The building's communications are jammed. That phone shouldn't be working unless... Turner's eyes narrowed. Unless you have a device that bypasses our security protocols. The phone slipped from Evelyn's fingers, clattering on the floor. Jared picked it up, his face cycling through emotions as he read the messages. Shock, hurt, fury. It's done, he read aloud. Gray took the fall. Proceed with phase 2. He looked up at his fiancée, the woman he'd planned to marry next month. Phase 2, Evelyn? She lifted her chin, the mask falling away completely. Gone was the devoted fiancé, replaced by someone cold and calculating. You were never supposed to read that. Obviously. Just like I was never supposed to survive tonight. It wasn't personal, Jared. It was business. Business. His voice cracked. We were going to be married. And as your widow, I would have inherited everything. The company, the patents, the fortune. She shrugged elegantly. Much cleaner than a divorce. The brutal honesty of it stole his breath. Around the room, board members and investors watched in stunned silence as the full scope of the betrayal unfolded. Who else? Jared demanded. Who's behind Phase 2? Evelyn smiled, a cruel expression that transformed her beautiful face. You think Gray and I planned this alone? Oh, darling. You really have no idea how many enemies you've made, do you? How many people want to see the great Jared Caldwell fall? Names, Turner growled, stepping closer. Or what? You'll torture me in front of all these witnesses. She laughed. I don't think so. Besides, it's too late. Even if I wanted to stop what's coming, which I don't, the wheels are already in motion. As if on cue, the lights went out. The emergency lighting kicked in a second later, bathing everything in an eerie red glow. But in that moment of darkness, Zuri heard movement, running feet, a door slamming, someone crying out in pain. When vision returned, Gray was gone. Lock it down, Turner roared. Find him. Security scattered, but Zuri noticed something they'd missed in the chaos. A service panel in the wall stood slightly ajar, the kind used by maintenance staff to access electrical systems. Too small for an adult to fit through comfortably, but Gray was a slight man, and desperation could drive people to attempt the impossible. He went through there, she said, pointing. Turner radioed his team, redirecting them toward the maintenance corridors. But Evelyn just laughed. You're too late. Malcolm knows this building better than anyone. He supervised the installation of the new security systems last year. Every blind spot, every weakness. She looked at Jared with mock sympathy. Did you really think your money could buy loyalty? People like us, we're only loyal to ourselves. You're wrong, Zuri said suddenly. Everyone turned to her, surprised by the conviction in her young voice. Not everyone's like you. Some people are good. Some people care about more than money. Evelyn's gaze turned venomous. What would you know about it, little girl? You think your minimum wage mother cares about anything beyond her next paycheck? You think she wouldn't sell out anyone for the right price? Evelyn, Jared snapped, but Zuri was already responding. My mama works 3 jobs to keep our apartment. She could make more money doing bad things. People have offered. But she doesn't, because she wants me to grow up knowing right from wrong. Tears streamed down her face, but her voice remained steady. And my daddy died trying to do the right thing. So don't you dare say everyone's like you. Some people have honor. The words hung in the air like an accusation. Evelyn's perfect features twisted with contempt, but before she could respond, Turner's radio crackled to life. Sir, we found Gray. He's in the mechanical room, but the transmission cut to static, then screaming. Turner was moving before the sound faded, Jared close behind despite protests from the remaining security. Zuri found herself pulled along by her mother, who refused to let her daughter out of sight in the chaos. They found Gray sprawled on the concrete floor of the mechanical room, blood pooling beneath him. A knife protruded from his back, not a wound of self-defense, but an execution. His eyes were still open, staring at nothing, his last expression one of complete surprise. He was silenced, Turner said grimly. Someone didn't want him talking. But who? Jared demanded. Everyone's been accounted for. A slow clap echoed through the room. They spun toward the sound to find a figure emerging from behind the massive HVAC units. Marcus Webb, Grant Technology's CFO, stepped into the light. His usually genial face wore an expression none of them had seen before, cold satisfaction mixed with disdain. Bravo, Webb said. Though I must admit, the little girl throwing a wrench in our plans wasn't something we anticipated. Marcus. Jared's voice was hollow. You've been with me since the beginning. You were my father's friend. Your father was a fool, Webb spat. Brilliant, yes, but a fool nonetheless. He could have been rich beyond imagination if he'd been willing to compromise. Instead, he clung to his precious ethics and died broke. He died with integrity, Jared shot back. Integrity doesn't pay for cancer treatment, Webb replied coldly. Or did you forget that while your father was giving away his inventions to help humanity, my daughter was dying because I couldn't afford experimental therapies? The revelation hit Jared like a physical blow. Sarah, but I thought she recovered. You said the treatment worked. Because I found other sources of income. Less ethical ones. The kind your father would have despised. Webb's smile was bitter. I've been selling your secrets for years, Jared. Small things at first, research data here, development timelines there. But when certain interested parties learned about your new AI medical system, they made me an offer I couldn't refuse. The Prometheus project, Jared breathed. You sold out Prometheus? Zuri didn't understand the technical details, but she could feel the weight of the betrayal. Whatever this Prometheus project was, it mattered deeply to Jared. An AI system that could diagnose and treat diseases with 99.7% accuracy, Webb continued. Worth billions to whoever controls it. Worth even more to those who want to ensure it never reaches the market. The pharmaceutical companies, Turner said. If Prometheus succeeds, it would destroy their profit margins. Now you're catching on. Webb pulled out a gun, where had he been hiding it, and aimed it steadily at Jared. The plan was simple. Eliminate you at your moment of triumph. Frame Gray for the murder, a disgruntled board member, passed over for promotion. Evelyn inherits everything and quietly sells the company to our buyers. Everyone wins. Except the millions of people who could be saved by Prometheus, Jared said. Webb shrugged. Not my problem. It is now, Zuri said quietly. Everyone turned to look at her. The 12-year-old girl stood perfectly still, her phone held high. I've been live streaming, she said. Since the lights went out. My friend Keisha showed me how. She says you should always record when things get scary, for evidence. Webb's face went white. You little. He swung the gun toward her, but three things happened simultaneously. Danielle threw herself in front of her daughter. Turner drew his weapon, and Jared lunged forward with a roar of rage. The gunshot was deafening in the enclosed space. But it was Webb who fell, Turner's bullet catching him in the shoulder. The gun clattered away as he collapsed, clutching his wound and screaming curses. It's over, Turner said, kicking the weapon away. The stream's probably already gone viral. He was right. Zuri's phone showed thousands of viewers and climbing. Comments flooded in shock, outrage, demands for justice. The attempted murder of Jared Caldwell, broadcast live by a 12-year-old girl, was already trending worldwide. You stupid child, Webb gasped from the floor. You have no idea what you've done. The people I work for, they don't forgive. They don't forget. You've signed your own death warrant. Then they'll have to go through me, Jared said. He moved to stand beside Zuri and her mother, his presence a shield. This girl saved my life. Her courage exposed a conspiracy that would have cost thousands of lives. I'll spend every resource I have keeping her safe. Sirens wailed outside. Real police this time, summoned by the livestream viewers. The building's communication blackout had backfired spectacularly, preventing the conspirators from knowing their plan was being broadcast to the world. As paramedics treated Webb and police took Evelyn into custody, Jared found himself sitting on a crate beside Zuri. The adrenaline was wearing off, leaving him shaky and exhausted. Why? He asked quietly. Why risk yourself for me? You don't even know me. Zuri was quiet for a long moment. Then she reached into her pocket and pulled out a worn photograph. It showed a smiling man in a Grant Technologies uniform. This is my daddy, she said. David Lawson. He worked in your factory on the south side. Jared's breath caught. He remembered now, the fire 3 years ago. A electrical malfunction, the investigators had said. 7 workers died, including. He wasn't supposed to be there that night, Zuri continued. But he went back because he thought something was wrong with the safety systems. He was trying to fix it when. She trailed off, wiping her eyes. The fire, Jared whispered. I'm so sorry. We implemented new safety protocols after that, but it was too late for. He sent a report, Zuri interrupted. 2 weeks before the fire. Said someone was tampering with the safety systems. Said it was dangerous. But nobody listened. Jared felt the blood drain from his face. I never saw that report. I know. Zuri looked up at him with wise eyes. Mr. Webb made sure of that. I heard him admit it tonight. He's been selling secrets for years. I think someone paid him to create an accident. To make you look bad. Maybe to drive down your stock price. The implications were staggering. Webb hadn't just betrayed him recently. He'd been a cancer in the company for years. And David Lawson had died trying to stop him. Your father was a hero, Jared said hoarsely. And so are you. I just did what he would have done, Zuri replied simply. Tried to save lives. Even yours. Even mine. Jared almost smiled. You don't like billionaires much, do you? My mama says money shows who people really are. Some folks, it makes them mean. Others, it makes them kind. She studied him carefully. I wanted to see which kind you were. And, you're still deciding, she said with startling honesty. But I think tonight might help you choose. Turner approached, his expression grim. Sir, we need to move you to a secure location. If Webb's telling the truth about his employers. In a moment, Jared turned back to Zuri and her mother. Mrs. Lawson, I owe you and your daughter a debt I can never fully repay. But I'd like to try. First, I'm going to personally ensure a full investigation into the fire that killed your husband. Those responsible will face justice. Danielle's composure finally cracked. She'd held it together through the entire ordeal, but the mention of her husband broke through her defenses. He was a good man, she sobbed. He just wanted to help people. He did help people, Jared assured her. His sacrifice saved lives. We found and fixed 17 other safety violations after the fire. And now his daughter has saved even more. He stood, decision crystallizing in his mind. I'm establishing the David Lawson Foundation immediately. It will provide whistleblower protection and support for workers who report safety violations. No one should have to die for doing the right thing. And, he added, looking at Zuri, I'm creating a full scholarship fund for your education. Any school, any degree, all expenses covered. Your father believed in the power of knowledge to change the world. I want to make sure you have every opportunity to follow in his footsteps. Zuri's eyes widened. But I didn't do it for a reward. I know. That's exactly why you deserve one. The next hours blurred together. Police statements, medical examinations, security debriefs. The live stream had indeed gone viral, with millions watching the dramatic confession and capture. News vans surrounded the building, reporters clamoring for interviews with the young hero who'd exposed a corporate conspiracy. But Zuri stayed close to her mother, overwhelmed by the attention. She'd only wanted to save a life, not become famous. The weight of what she'd uncovered, years of betrayal, murder, corporate espionage, was too much for 12-year-old shoulders to bear. Jared noticed her distress. Despite his own trauma, he took charge, shielding the Lawsons from the media circus. He arranged for them to leave through a service entrance, providing his personal security detail for their protection. This isn't over, he warned Danielle quietly. Webb was right about one thing. His employers won't be happy. I'm arranging a safe house for you and Zuri until we can neutralize the threat. We can't accept, Danielle began. Yes, you can. Your daughter saved my life and exposed criminals who've killed before. I won't let them hurt her. His voice brooked no argument. Turner will coordinate everything. You'll have round-the-clock protection until this is resolved. As they prepared to leave, Zuri tugged on Jared's sleeve one last time. Mr. Caldwell? What's going to happen to the Prometheus project? Will those bad people stop it? Jared knelt to her eye level. Not a chance. In fact, I'm accelerating the timeline. We'll have Prometheus operational within 6 months, and the first deployment will be in underserved communities. Your father's neighborhood will be first. He would have liked that, Zuri said softly. I think he would have liked you too, Jared replied. Brave, principled, willing to stand up for what's right. You're everything I should have been. It's not too late, Zuri told him. My daddy used to say every day is a chance to be better than yesterday. As the Lawsons were escorted to safety, Jared stood in the ruins of what should have been his triumph. The gala was destroyed, his engagement revealed as a sham, his trusted advisors exposed as traitors. But somehow, he felt lighter than he had in years. A 12-year-old girl had shown him what real courage looked like. She'd risked everything not for money or fame, but because it was right. Because her father had taught her that some things matter more than personal safety. The media would spin this story a dozen different ways. The business world would gossip about the scandal for months. His stock prices would fluctuate, and his board would demand answers. But Jared Caldwell had already made his decision. The Prometheus project would launch on schedule. The David Lawson Foundation would protect future whistleblowers. And Zuri Lawson would have every opportunity to become the force for good her father had believed in. Because sometimes heroes don't wear expensive suits or command boardrooms. Sometimes they're 12 years old, wearing borrowed shoes, and brave enough to shout a warning when everyone else stays silent. Sometimes salvation comes from the most unexpected places. Epilogue: 6 months later, the community center hummed with activity. Families lined up for free health screenings, children played in the newly renovated gymnasium, and volunteers distributed information about the Prometheus AI system that would soon provide cutting-edge medical care to the neighborhood. Zuri Lawson stood on the stage, her mother beside her, as Jared Caldwell addressed the crowd. He looked different now, the arrogance replaced by genuine warmth, the isolation replaced by connection. 6 months ago, a young woman taught me that courage isn't about boardrooms or bank accounts, he said. It's about standing up for others, even when you're afraid, even when the world tells you to stay quiet. He turned to Zuri. This center is named after David Lawson, a man who died protecting others. But it exists because his daughter carried on his legacy, because she refused to let injustice win. The crowd erupted in applause. Zuri felt her face burn with embarrassment, but also pride. The investigation had revealed the full extent of the conspiracy. Webb and several others had orchestrated the factory fire to manipulate stock prices. Justice was finally being served. The Prometheus project launches nationally next month, Jared continued. Free AI-driven healthcare for anyone who needs it. No insurance required, no questions asked. Because healthcare is a human right, not a luxury. More applause. In the crowd, Zuri spotted familiar faces. Turner, now head of the Lawson Foundation Security Division. Some of her classmates from school, proud to know the girl who'd become a symbol of courage. Even a few former Grant Technologies board members who'd chosen integrity over profit. After the ceremony, as people explored the new facility, Jared found Zuri sitting quietly in the memorial garden dedicated to her father. Overwhelming? He asked, sitting beside her. A little, she admitted. I still don't feel like a hero. I just did what felt right. That's exactly what heroes do, Jared replied. They act on instinct, driven by compassion rather than calculation. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the community come together. Children who'd never had access to proper health care were getting checkups. Parents were learning about preventive care. The Prometheus AI was already identifying conditions that might have gone undiagnosed until too late. Do you think my dad would be proud? Zuri asked quietly. I know he would be, Jared said firmly. You finished what he started. You brought justice to those who caused his death. And you saved countless lives in the process. We saved lives, Zuri corrected. I couldn't have done it alone. No, Jared agreed. But you were the catalyst. You showed me that wealth without purpose is meaningless. That power without principle is dangerous. You changed my life, Zuri. You changed mine too, she said. The scholarship, the protection, this center, you didn't have to do any of that. Yes, I did. Because that's what good people do. They lift each other up. As the sun set over the community center, casting golden light through the windows, Zuri thought about the journey that had brought them here. From a terrifying night in a glittering ballroom to this moment of hope and healing. Her father had always told her that one person could make a difference. That standing up for what's right was never wrong, even when it was scary. Even when the odds seemed impossible. She'd proven him right. And in doing so, she'd discovered something powerful. Sometimes the smallest voices carry the most important messages. Sometimes the youngest hearts show the greatest courage. And sometimes, just sometimes, a 12-year-old girl in borrowed shoes can change the world simply by refusing to stay silent. The David Lawson Community Center stood as proof of that truth. And Zuri Lawson, no longer just a caterer's daughter, but a symbol of courage, carried her father's legacy forward into a brighter future. Because heroes come in all sizes, all ages, all backgrounds. And courage, real courage, is universal. In the years that followed, the David Lawson Community Center became a beacon of hope in the neighborhood. The Prometheus project revolutionized healthcare access across the nation, saving millions of lives and proving that technology could serve humanity rather than profit alone. Zuri Lawson went on to study biomedical engineering, inspired by her father's dedication to safety and her own experience with the power of truth. She never forgot the night she stood up in a room full of billionaires and spoke truth to power. Jared Caldwell transformed Grant Technologies into a force for social good, never forgetting the lesson a 12-year-old girl taught him about real courage. He often said in interviews that losing everything that night, his fiancée, his trusted advisors, his illusions, was the best thing that ever happened to him. Because in return, he gained something priceless: purpose. The conspiracy trials made headlines for months. Webb and his co-conspirators received life sentences for murder and corporate espionage. The pharmaceutical companies involved faced massive fines and restructuring. New laws were passed protecting whistleblowers, ensuring that no one would suffer David Lawson's fate again. But perhaps the most lasting impact was the simplest. A young girl's act of courage inspired millions to speak up, stand tall, and do what's right, regardless of the consequences. Because sometimes heroes don't wear capes or carry shields. Sometimes they're 12 years old, wearing borrowed shoes, with nothing but truth as their weapon and compassion as their shield. And sometimes, that's more than enough to change the world. Thank you for watching Life in Stories. If this story moved you, inspired you, or reminded you of what really matters, please like, share, and subscribe to support more stories like this one. Every view, every comment, and every share helps keep these powerful voices alive. Until next time, remember, life writes the best stories, and we're here to tell them.